Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Optimization in Civil Engineering. In the last few lectures, we discussed about the numerical methods to solve multivariable optimization problems. In those methods, you have understood or you have used some of the methods where you need a detailed understanding of the single variable optimization methods. And if you look into all these methods, you will realize that not a single method is applicable for all type of problems. You have to actually use and analyze to find out which optimization method works or suits better for the given optimization problem. Now, all these engineering problems so far we have discussed did not have any constraint. There are engineering problems where you will find constraints. So today we are going to discuss about the methods that can be used to solve real world engineering problem with constraints. So let us start with some methods or the algorithms to solve such problems. The constraint optimization techniques or the methods available to solve the constraint multivariable optimization problems can be divided into two categories. One is known as the direct methods and the second one is known as the indirect methods. Within direct methods, there are various methods. Out of that, we'd like to indicate the names of random search methods, heuristic search method, objective and constraint approximation methods, methods of feasible directions, generalized reduced gradient method. Among these 5 methods, we are going to discuss about the random search methods and heuristic search methods. Both of these methods are drawn from the unconstrained multivariable optimization problems which we have discussed in our previous lectures. Among the indirect search methods, there are two types generally, and these methods are transformation of variables and the second one is the sequential unconstrained minimization. In this class, we are going to discuss about the transformation of variables method only. So in today's lecture, we are going to discuss about the random search method, heuristic search methods, the transformation of variable methods. So let us start with those methods. Before we start with these methods, let us first of all understand the characteristics of a constraint problem. Whenever we have a constraint problem, we can see that the constraint may or may not have impact. If the constraints are such that it does not have impact, then we'll see that problem has no effect of constraint on the optimum solution. For example, in this optimization function representation, if you see, which is very familiar to you because we have used this in some of the problems we had discussed in the earlier class. If we have some constraint which says that the boundary or the feasible region are going to be like this, in this particular problem, if we want to minimize the objective function, from our previous experience, we know the minimum lies here and this point is actually within or inside the constraint and it has no effect from the constraints which are imposed on this particular problem. This type of problem, we won't find the effect of the constraint. Sometime we may have a problem in which the constraint is such that the solution is going to lie on the boundary of the constraint. In this example, if we have another constraint which is going to be of this nature, and this region is infeasible, then it is very clear that if you want to optimize this particular problem, our optimum solution is going to lie on this particular constraint, particularly somewhere in this region. We may get into a situation where the optimum solution is going to be located on the constraint boundary itself. Now, the constraint could be of such a nature that it can actually induce multiple optimum points. Particularly in this example, if our constraint is actually passing through this contour to some extent, then we can actually obtain multiple optimum solutions along this, as long as this line is touching the contour. So that will lead to the constraint induced multiple optimum points. Now, objective function also can induce multiple optimum point. Now let us introduce one more constraint which is going to be like this. Now in this case, if we say this is our infeasible region and we want to optimize our function, we can see that the maximum contour line, one which is passing through here, is also again passing through this point. It indicates that the objective function has now introduced multiple or more than one optimum points on the constraint edge. So these are the various characteristics which we will be encountering if we are solving the constraint multivariable optimization problem. And the numerical solution techniques which we are going to use should be able to take care of all these situations. So let us start with our first method, that is the random search methods. The random search methods are actually the class of the random search methods we had discussed for the multivariable optimization problem without any constraint. Only difference in this case is that we have to generate the points which are feasible and which are within the boundary of the constraint and the objective function. So the random points which we had generated in random jumping method or random walk method or random walk method with directions, in all those methods a point should be generated which is going to be in the feasible search space, and if we find that the point we have generated randomly is not, then we have to regenerate. Until and unless my point is within the feasible search space, we have to keep on generating. And in case of random jumping method, if you recall, we had created a huge point cloud or a huge point database and looked into the objective function value. So if we predetermine that we want to create, say, 1000 or 2000 or whatever the number we want to generate, the points we want to generate, we have to ensure all those points are feasible. We have to keep on generating until it meets the feasibility criteria. Essentially, we can actually use the random search methods which we had discussed for the multivariable optimization problem. In this case, for the constraint multivariable optimization problem. I believe you understood those random search methods we had discussed, and you can sufficiently tweak that method to ensure the points are in the feasible region and you obtain the solution in a similar fashion. The next method we are going to discuss about the heuristic search method. One of the heuristic search method we are going to discuss known as complex search method. This complex search method is similar to the simplex search method. In the simplex search method, we had used a point cloud to find out the optimum solution, and this point cloud used to reflect in the opposite direction of the worst point, and then depending on the reflected point's objective function value, it used to further extend or contract, and the process is to move until it reaches the optimum solution. In a similar fashion, in this case, we are going to use a point cloud of k, which is going to be greater than n plus 1 or equal to n plus 1. In case of simplex search method, we use the point cloud of n plus 1, where n stands for the number of variables in the objective function. So we do start with a feasible point, and a new feasible point is added into the system until all the required number is reached. So if you are generating k number of feasible points for the complex, then we first generate one feasible point which is essentially inside the constraint boundary, and then we add another point and we add another point. Like that way we keep on adding the point. Now once we have more than 2 points, we can use the property of those 2 points to ensure the third point and the subsequent points are systematically brought inside the constraint space. So for that purpose, what we do is that a new point which is formed, if we find that it is in the infeasible region, we pull it back towards the centroid of the remaining points which are already in the feasible region. So you can imagine that you are generating a point here, you already have these 3 points, and this is your constraint boundary. So the randomly generated point happened to be here, and we already got 3 points which are inside the boundary and meeting the requirement. So we find out the centroid at certain point of these feasible points, and we pull this towards the centroid to certain extent. So if this distance is say d, we can reduce the distance by d by 2 or some factor and ensure that this point is inside. If it doesn't happen in one iteration, we may need to do multiple iteration to ensure this point gets inside the boundary, and we keep on doing this until we reach the k number of points within the feasible region. Once the initial complex is formed, we create a reflection point the same way we did it for the simplex search method. So to create the reflection point, we have to find out the worst point, and we have to find out the centroid of the point cloud by excluding the worst point. So the centroid can be represented by this formulation, and once we know this centroid, we are going to project the centroid along the direction of the worst point. So we need to use a factor alpha in this case and project it, and that is how we are going to get the reflection point. If we find that the reflected point is feasible and we find that the objective function value at the reflected point is better than the worst point, then we can replace the worst point with the reflected point. So in the complex search method, we are no longer extending the reflected point further, which we did in the simplex search method. we are directly replacing the worst point with the reflected point, provided the reflected point found to be better than the worst point. We are also not comparing the reflected point with the best point either, which we did in the simplex search method. The other situation could be the reflected point is visible but not better than the worst point. Then we calculate the reflected point with a lower value of alpha, say alpha by 2. Let us understand the process. Suppose we have 4 points, 2, 3 and 4. This is my worst point and these are all the better points, and if I find the centroid to be here, so this is indicated as xc, we reflect the point and we obtain a point here xr. If we find that this point is better than the worst point, we replace this particular point with this one, that is my condition here. If we find that this point, which is of course in the feasible region, is not better than the worst point, so in that case what we do, we use the alpha value to reflect the centroid in this direction. We reduce the value of alpha, say by half of it, and then find the reflected point. So in that case the reflected point is expected to be somewhere closer to the centroid. And if we do that, say suppose this is the new point, and if we find that this point is better, then we again replace it. And in the process, if we cannot find any better point and alpha value had reduced significantly, which is meeting the pre-decided value of epsilon, so if I find that alpha had reduced and it has reduced beyond the epsilon which we had set for the alpha, then what we do is that instead of taking the worst point to reflect, we take the second worst point. So suppose this is my second worst point, so xw2 will be reflecting based on this point, and this would go in this direction. And of course we have to estimate the centroid based on the remaining points apart from this. So all these points, we have this one is one point, this one is another point, and this one was the another point. So based on this we do a centered here, and this is my second worst point. I'm going to reflect it and obtain a reflection point here. So once we use this reflection point, and if we find it is better, then we can replace the second worst point with this one and the process will move on. We are doing all this in case my xr is actually a feasible point. By any chance, if we find that the generated point xr is not feasible, then we need to pull it back towards the centroid, and for that purpose we use this formulation to pull it back. And then after pulling it back, we follow the process what we have described in these two methods or two processes. Now once we continue with this particular process, like the way we did it for the simplex search method, we'll find that eventually we'll reach the optimum solution, and we need to select a suitable termination criteria at that point to see when our objective function is precise enough that we can use for our purpose. This is only possible when the points does not collapse to the centroid. So to summarize, if we have the objective function with n variable, we need to create a point cloud of k which is going to be greater equal to n plus 1. This point cloud we have to develop one by one. So first point, once we select, it has to be within the feasible area of the objective function and the constraints. Once I find one point, the second point is introduced randomly, which is again needs to be in the feasible area, and we have to generate this point until we find a point which is in the feasible region. So we get 2 points. The third point will also be like that, and we will keep on doing that. At any point we find that a point, a randomly generated point, is outside the feasible region or in the infeasible region, we use the point cloud which is already in the feasible region. So suppose in this case 2, the centroid we use of that point cloud to pull the point which is actually in the infeasible region towards the centroid and ensure that point is within the feasible region. So this is how we first form the point cloud in the feasible region of k number of points. Once we get the k number of points, then we find out the objective function values of all these k points and then identify the point where the objective function value is the worst. So we do start ranking the objective function value and the point accordingly. Like the simplex method, at this point what we are going to do is we are going to take the worst point and reflect along the centroid to find the reflected point. So for the centroid, we estimate the centroid based on the point cloud without the worst point, like we did in the simplex search method. Once we find the centroid, that we project to find the reflection point. Once we get the reflection point, and if we see that the reflection point is in the feasible region, then we find out the objective function value at the reflected point. If we find that the objective function value at the reflected point is better than the worst point we have, then we just replace the worst point with the reflected point. However, if we find that the worst point has better value than the reflected point, then we reduce the alpha value so that the reflected point comes closer to the centroid of the point cloud. Then we again compare the objective function value of the new reflected point with the worst point of the point cloud, and still if we see that the worst point is actually better than the reflected point, we further reduce it. We keep on reducing the alpha value till a point that alpha value is actually less than the preset precision value. If we reach to that level, when the alpha value is actually less than the preset precision value, then we move on from the worst point to the second worst and find the reflected point based on the second worst point and see if the reflected point is better than the second worst point or not. If it is so, we replace it like the way we did it for the worst point, and the process moves on. However, there is a chance that as we are reducing the reflection point towards the centroid in the whole process, all the point cloud may collapse to the centroid. When it happens, the method takes the point cloud to the solution, which we can actually indicate as the optimum solution. If it does not converge to a centroid, then we always set a termination criteria and check whether it has met the termination criteria or not, and the process keeps on moving till that point. So this was about the complex method, which is very much similar to the simplex method. The complex method is used for the constraint multivariable optimization problems. Now we'll move to the indirect methods. One of the primary characteristics of the indirect method is the use of the transformation functions. And these transformation based methods of the indirect method is one of the simplest and the popular optimization methods for constraint multivariable optimization problem. The constraint problems in this case are transformed into a sequence of unconstrained optimization problem by incorporating the constraints within the objective function. If you recall the Lagrange multiplier method, we used to combine or consolidate the constraints into the objective function and make it an unconstrained optimization problem. In this method also we do a similar approach, or we take a similar approach and make the constraint optimization problem into a unconstrained optimization problem. And in this unconstrained optimization problem, the objective function is penalized whenever a particular solution violates the constraint set. Now this penalization method can vary based on the way the penalty function is assigned or the penalty value is assigned. A few examples of the transformation methods are penalty function methods and method of multipliers. In our lecture today, we are only going to discuss about the penalty function methods. So let us see about the penalty function methods. If you recall the basic optimization formulation for the constraint optimization problem, we know that we can write it in this way. It is very much familiar to us by now. Now this particular problem, if you recall the Lagrange multiplier method, in a similar fashion we can transform this particular constraint optimization problem into a unconstrained optimization problem by introducing the penalty parameters, which is here and here. So this penalty parameter is for the inequality constraint and this one is for the equality constraints. We also introduce the function for the inequality constraint and the equality constraint. If we are actually minimizing the objective function, in that case we need to use the plus signs, means anytime the constraint is violated, the function value, overall function value is going to increase, so we are using the plus sign. If you are maximizing, then anytime our constraints are violated, we'll see that the objective function value is reducing. So in order to optimize, it becomes very clear that the penalty function is going to ensure the constraints are not going to violate. So in this formulation, as I said, we have the penalty parameters and these are constant. Generally we consider it as a positive constant, and we also have the function for the inequality constraint and equality constraints. And this optimization formulation changes with the penalty parameter values, and this penalty parameter values actually changes over the iteration. So we do not have the same objective function in each iteration of the process, and that is why it is known as sequential unconstrained minimization techniques. So with an example you will understand how this optimization function is changing over iteration. Before we go to a solution, let us first of all understand these particular functions, the inequality constraint function and the equality constraint function. Here are the examples of few inequality and equality constraint functions. First we will look into the equality constraint function. So it can be the parabolic penalty, and in this case it is going to be of this nature. So whichever the objective function it is, for that we are going to add the constraint value after finding the square of the value. If you see at any point, if the solution violates the equality constraint, then this value is going to increase, and as it increases, if we quickly go back